Hello fellow creators. Astro recently shipped with the support of experimental Markdoc integration. Markdoc, if you don't know, is an enhancement over the Markdown syntax you know and love, and it improves the Markdown syntax you know and love with constructs that are conventionally found in server-side languages. You get support for variables, functions, custom tags and stuff, and you are able to take your content authoring experience with Markdown to a whole new level. So let's see how we can get started with Markdoc in an Astro build project. First thing first, you'll have to install the Markdoc integration, right? To install the Markdoc integration, you'll have to yarn Astro add Markdoc. Just do this and hit Y. To install all of the dependencies, we can open our Astro config file. There we have other extensions like MDX12, Delvin and stuff, but we want to add Markdoc integration. Let's confirm it a yes. Now we see that the Markdoc integration is available here. Imported from Astro.js Markdoc. Package.json will have a new integration included now, right? Now, since this integration is available now, what will be required to do to have all of the benefits of Markdoc is we'll have to place your content within the content directory, that follows the content collection convention, right? So just do this. Go inside your content directory. Within your content directory, let's just copy one of the Markdown entries that are already available there, right? Let's just copy this. Let's call it Markdoc integration. And here, let's just edit some of the details. Let's just edit some of the details here. Let's call it Markdoc integration. Cool. Let's just save this. Start our project again. Okay, go back to your project's homepage. We have a new page called Markdoc integration. Now we'll learn about all of the flexibility that Markdoc brings to the table with this page. So first thing first, since Markdoc is supported now through the Markdoc integration, we'll have to change the extension to mdoc. Go ahead and rename this to mdoc. Cool. It's saved. So it's just working fine, right? Now mdoc isn't a non-extension to VS Code, right? To let it be known to VS Code, we'll have to do several tweakings for the syntax highlighting. So I'll go ahead and we'll create a new folder here called VS Code. Within VS Code, we'll create a new file called settings.json. Settings.json. And within settings.json, we'll provide a new file association. File associations. And what we wanna associate is all of our mdoc extensions should be associated with, say, Markdown. This will let VS Code treat mdoc files as Markdown files so that we are able to get all of the Markdown related syntax, say, highlighting, right, for us, right? You can also change this to something like Markdoc. So we have the Markdoc extension installed, so we'll keep it to Markdoc, right? Now let's explore how Markdoc helps us in expressing different templating related requirements easily. Open our Markdoc file. So first thing we'll learn about with Markdoc is variables, right? So Markdoc helps us put variables within Markdown files. Easiest way to introduce variables with Markdoc is to open your Astro config file, and there within Markdoc you need to provide configs, right? So there are several configurations it takes. The first one is variables, and there you can say something like include header true, right? Or something like flags, right? All of this is totally possible, right? There you can say anything, right? Feature 1 true, feature 2 false, right? So all of this is permissible with variables key, right? Once you have this defined, you'll be able to access include header, flags, feature 1, etc. within your Markdoc files, right? And within the Markdoc file, now you'll be able to put this this notation to access the variables, right? So if you have something like include header, you'd be able to say include header, close this, if this needs to be an if condition, right? So you need to place if over here, and there you can say header goes here. So these are called variables. You are able to do things like conditionals, as well as use the values provided through the variables attribute within the Markdoc file. Or you can do something like flags feature 1, and there you can say feature 1 goes here, right? Save this, and now you can see that the feature 1 goes here is displayed now. Come back to your Astro config file, make it falsy, save this, right? The feature is gone, right? Because we disabled it in the variables. So we just explored how variables can be used within Markdoc files, right? Variables are the key constructs, available with Markdoc extensions, that you are able to leverage to conditionally apply or not apply things, right? While maintaining probably a global configuration or a local configuration. And we went through its simplest form, which is global variables. When we use the Astro config file and we pass variables through to the variables property, we create global variables which are available across all of the Markdoc files. So this is as simple as this, right? You have a feature flag available here, you turn it to truthy, and you'd see your values kind of updating over here, right? Feature 1 goes here, you disable it, and boom, it's gone, right? So these were variables, right? Variables are one of the key pieces, that you get as a feature, when you use the Markdoc integration, because Markdown or MDX doesn't have the concept of, variables in the classical conventional templating language sense, right? The very next thing you have available to you is something called functions, right? So you can have functions defined over here, and against the functions key, you can describe your own functions for different purposes, right? So if you look at the Astro.js documentation, they give example of a function that we can use to kind of shift some of the logic related to kind of deriving flag of a country emoji using functions, right? So let's say we have functions called get country emoji, right? Let's just copy this, right, and place it over here. Now we'll be able to use this function within our Markdoc file. Just take the name from here, get country emoji, open your Markdoc file, and there within your Markdoc file you'll be able to actually use this function to get emoji for a certain country. Now this get country emoji can be called with a parameter like Spain. Save this, go back to your Markdoc file, there reload this, pass it something else like India, save it. Now we have seen how we can use a reusable function called get country emoji to get emoji for a certain country. All we need to do is we need to place a function inside our Astro config file within this function's key, right? And we are able to use this get country emoji across all of the Markdoc files, right? Let's understand the anatomy of a function. Functions take a transform key and it lets you access the past parameters. To access all of the past parameters in the parameters argument based on the parameters, either by keys or values, you are able to access what got passed, right? And then you are able to carry out any sort of kind of a transformation to the past values. Let's say we need to transform our past value to uppercase, right? What will be required to do? All we'll be required to do is we'll be required to kind of give something called uppercase over here, and here we can just give a transform, and with the transform we can just take the parameters, right? And with the parameters now we'll be able to kind of access the past values. To access the past values, what will be required to do is we'll be required to tell about the keys or the values, right? So when you access a past parameter, what you'll have to do is you'll have to say object values to get just the values that were passed to your function, right? Give parameters to it, right? And since we are interested in the very first argument passed to the function, we should say str, the very first argument, and here we'll be able to return type of str string. Then we will just transform it, right? Str to uppercase. Otherwise we'll just return the str, right? This is all it takes, right? Now we'll be able to go back to our Markdoc file, and there we can just call this upper function. We can see the value in uppercase now, right? So functions, if you go by the definition, functions enable you to extend Markdoc with custom utilities which let you transform your content and variables at runtime. Out of the box, you get some functions like equals, and, or, not, default, and debug, right? And you can see all of the examples in the docs, right? So you can do something like and, not. You can check for existence of a certain variable. You can do equality checks. You can assign default values to the variables that are passed on to your Markdoc files. You can also debug the variables that are passed to your Markdoc files, or you can just write custom functions like our get country emoji function or uppercase functions, right? You can see it in the examples that all your functions need to provide is the transform key, which is a function that takes all of the parameters, and then your functions can consider parameters that it could use to transform the passed on values in Markdoc files, right? That's all it takes, right? So you can do great new things with this Markdoc integration, which isn't possible to do with a plain simple Markdown file. The power of Markdoc actually lies in tags. Just like HTML tags, Markdoc can also have tags. If you see it from the point of view of MDX, consider tags like your custom components, right, that you can inject and insert here and there in your Markdown file or your Markdoc file. So if we go by the definition, tags are syntactic extension of a standard Markdown. You can use native Markdoc tags like tables, conditionals, and partials, or create custom React components, right? This doesn't have to necessarily be React components. It could be any framework component like a solid component or a view component or a Swell.js component, right? So you'd be able to insert custom components right inside your Markdoc tags with this expressiveness and power of tags, right? By default, you have things like a table, right? If you put this within your Markdoc file, you'll see a table rendered, right? So let's just copy this, collapse this, open your Markdoc integration file. There, just place table tag, right? Save this. And now you have a table available for you, right? You have conditionals. We have already learned about the if condition, right? It was a tag, right? Similarly, you have if else. You can just check for a presence of a variable and you can conditionally do things, right? And custom tags are the true power of Markdoc in my view. We'll see how we can create a custom tag for something like a callout. So let's add our very first custom tag. Open the Astro config file again. There, besides variables and functions, we can have another assignment for tags, right? Just put tags here. What will be our tag called? What name it will be known by, right? So just put something like callout. We are creating a custom callout tag, right? And against the callout definition, it takes a schema property, and schema contains these few attributes, right? First, there will be render. Render is about the custom component that will be leveraged to render a certain tag, right? So the render property tells about the custom component that we're going to use to render a certain content within a Markdoc document, right? We're using Astro, right? And in Astro, let's say and within this project, let's say we have a Astro component called callout, right? So we'll put its name here against the render key, right? It will be callout, right? This is our Astro fence, and here let's say we'll just say callout. We are not accepting anything. We're just showing that how this could be clubbed with a Markdoc custom tag, right? You're just saying callout, right? Save this, no changes yet. Go back to your Astro config file again. We'll provide the name for the component here. It just needs to be called callout, right? That's it, nothing else, right? Once this is done, we'll have to actually use this tag, right? And to use this tag, there will be two things. First, we'll be required to provide this custom component to our renderer. And second, we'll have to leverage the callout tag within the Markdoc document, right? Particular page is rendered through a blog page, right? Command P slug. So source pages blog is currently used to render of our individual documents, right? Here we'll have to import our callout component. Import callout from components callout Astro, right? Once this is done, while we are rendering our content, we can provide a components property, and there we can provide the callout component. So now the content acts as a provider for our custom components, right? Once this is plugged, all we're required to do now is we need to go inside our document and place our custom tag over there, right? Just add the Markdoc notation, and here say callout. We can see the callout being rendered here, right? And what if we need to do more, right? all we need to do is we can go inside our callout component, and there we can just say callout, right? And let's place a slot here. It's not needed, so we'll make this a self-closing one. Save this, go back in your document, again start and close this, call out, and place your call out content goes here. Save this, call out content goes here, right? Come back to your custom component. There, let's add a bit of style. Let's add a bit of padding, px2, py1, beige, gray, 100. Save this. Let's make it beige gray 50. We can see it now. Let's add a bit of border to border gray 400. Save this. Right, so our callout is appearing now. Right, that's all that's needed. Right, go back to our Markdoc integration file, and there let's just disable this. Not related, but we'll disable this so that we are able to immediately see our changes and we don't have to scroll, right? So our callout is appearing here now. So now callout is a custom tag available to all of our Markdoc documents that we'll create, and we'll be able to reuse this tag to kind of show a callout wherever a callout is necessary, right? You can configure attributes to these custom tags. Go ahead and here just provide an attributes property, and against attribute you can accept something called title, right? You can accept something called title. Now what would be the type of the title? The type of the title could be one of these, right? Array, string, boolean, number, object. Let's say it's a string, right? Is it going to be a required one? Yeah, it's going to be a required one. So now we are configuring props to our custom components or our custom Markdoc tags, right? Once we have this available, what we can do now is we can just go ahead and make room for this property within our custom component. Open our callout component. There expose a property called title, which will be of type string. Accept this property with Astro props. With the title key, right? Now title is available to you. And now what we can do is we can just render the title over here, say within an S3 title, H3. Save this, Do we see any changes? No, we don't see any changes yet because we're not providing the title yet. So we'll open our document, open the Markdoc integration file, and there provide the title value. Now we see the heading is available here, right? So that's how you create custom tags and you pass on parameters to it. We can make this callout tag even more powerful, right? One of my theme is using this component already. So one of my theme is already using this callout tag. We'll just take one of the properties. We'll open Astro config file, and there we'll put another property called type, and we're saying that it's of type string. The default is not goes here, matches is. Now we are ensuring that the pass type is either caution, check, note, or warning, and nothing else. And if there's something else, the error that would be raised would be of critical type, right? Save this in your callout component, and we'll copy and paste all of this, right? It does a lot of things. We'll copy and paste all of this, right? So just view the raw value, paste. It's taking a title property, and it's also taking a type property which can by default be note, but it can be a check, a error, and warning too. Based on check, error, and warning, we are changing its icon, and we are also changing the heading color. Go back to our document, and then let's just see how it gets rendered now. So now this looks a bit more nicer, right? So this is our warning now, right? Open our callout component. We have 4 types: check, error, note, and warning, right? Open the document, check, check. We can create all sort of components. We can have a callout component, or we can have an interactive tabs component, or we can have a component to embed tweets or YouTube video, right? There are endless possibilities, right? And your components can be interactive too, right? You can actually use the hydration functionalities that Astro ships with to initialize, to hydrate your components while your page is loading, while your page gets interactive, while a certain component gets visible, right? You can have all of that. So let's see a few Markdoc custom tags in action. Currently on this page, we have several Markdoc custom tags. We have a callout, right? If you scroll, you can see that, there are 4 callouts. Then we have something called a link, a tweet embed, and a YouTube embed. Let's just quickly see the callout component. So this is just our previous callout component, right? We are importing an icon, and then we have defined some predefined strings, right, for an exhaustive list of allowable values that will allow through this callout as a type. And then we have an icon map and a color map, and based on the type, we are choosing the icon as well as we are choosing the prominent color for the heading, right? And then we are rendering the node, right? And we can similarly see it in action, right? All customizable. Your usual Astro component, right? You can do anything you can do inside Astro component over here also, right? If you look at the code of the YouTube embed, it's just taking a URL and a title, and it's rendering an iframe. Similarly, if you look at the tweet embed, it's again just kind of taking a URL and injecting the Twitter widget so that it could be embedded. One key thing is, you cannot have island directly as a component, right? So if you need to use the Astro's island functionality, if you need to use the Astro's island features, you cannot make it a direct component, right? You cannot just go ahead and tell, hey, you got to, if I can just show you our Markdoc config, there we have callout, link, tweet, embed, and everything available, right? Now, if I can just show you, say something like tabs, right? We are using a tabs here. Our tabs Markdoc file is just telling that it needs to render tabs, and it can accept a paragraph, a tag, and a list, and it takes a tabs property, which is an array, and a heading property, which is a string, right? Now, if you go and look inside the tab component, which is tabs.astro, it's just taking this tabs property and it's passing on to a tabs sold component here, right? And there we have this available, which means that this will be hydrated when this component will be visible, right? And you see this tab functionality in action here, right? This is an interactive component. So if you need interactive component, your interactive components will have to be a child of the Astro component that is used as a renderable for your custom Markdoc tags. So the place where you are actually providing the Astro component, those components need to be purely natively Astro components only, without any directives like a client load or client visible or something like that. And if you see, the tabs is actually coming from index.swirled, right? So this is your actual interactive framework based component, right? Now this index.swirled can have all of the interactivity features over here. It's taking the tab item property type as an array, and then it's looping over to render all of the tabs as well as the tab panels. Astro's Markdoc integration adds a new dimension to Astro's content story. It brings a lot of power and expressiveness in your entire content authoring experience with Markdown files. So go ahead and explore Astro's Markdoc integration, explore the Markdoc API, and build something cool with it. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.